All right, and here we are. Hello, everybody. Wolfpack here, and welcome to this very special stream with the Crush Depth developers. Now, we're not looking at the game yet. That will come extremely shortly, but I am joined by the lead developer, Marius, here, who's going to just give a quick pitch, elevator pitch, I suppose, with a PowerPoint of what Crush Depth is and what it aims to be and all that good stuff. So, hello, everybody. Ponxer, also, thank you for the sub and Kestrel as well. I do appreciate that. But how's it going, Marius?
Hey, thank you for the welcome. It's going great, and I'm excited to be here. I think this is my first Twitch stream about the project, so I'm
Y-
very excited to go through it.
yeah, I'm excited as well. It should be, seems to be going well thus far, so.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
okay. Luke, thank you for the subscription as well. Got lots of viewers in chat, so. If you wanted to introduce yourself and give us a rundown of what Crushed Up is.
Absolutely. So, for those new to the project, if you haven't heard about it already, basically, this is a hobby project I've been working on for a number of years. It's a passion project of mine. In the last year and a half or so, it's kind of grown. A lot of folks have reached out. We've kind of teamed together, and we've been putting together a basically a U-boat simulator that I'll run through and I'll talk about. And we just released our first official kind of free forever demo on Steam this week, and have put the title on sale for the first time. So we have, a discount for the MMO open world sale that Steam is hosting. We're participating in that. So if you see anything you like in the Twitch stream today, please consider supporting the team. Again, we're all kind of volunteers. We're passionate about the subject matter, and really, this is a hobby project for all of us, trying to create something that we ourselves would love to play at the end of the day. That's kind of our goal and our mission here. So I come from a software development enterprise background, so I love PowerPoints. So I'm going to go through one, talk a little bit about the project. Hopefully, I don't bore everybody, but I do want to share some things that I think are a key to understand about the project before we actually show you what the project is. There's a disconnect between what's going on under the hood and what we're going to be doing in the future versus where we are now. So that's what the deck is for.
And just to kind of clarify real fast, the demo's free and it's out now, so anyone can install it right now, correct?
That is absolutely correct. It's on Steam. Uh, Demo's free. Grab it. You'll have it forever. If you want to support us, right now we have I think it's a 30% discount on Steam for the main title.
Yeah.
And yeah,
All right, perfect. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew that they can check it out. Cool.
thank you.
Onward.
All right. So, first slide, because this is a hobby project, I do want to share a forward looking statement that today I'm going to be talking about aspirations and desires and goals. Uh, they can change at any time. So, nothing I'm saying here, is going to basically should be received as kind of final word. As with anything in software development, things are dynamic and we pivot all the time to meet, user feedback. So what I may say today may change tomorrow. So I just want to make sure that I'm honest and upfront about that with everybody considering supporting us. And I do want to share that the first thing you see on our Steam page when you pull up the game is this disclaimer that if you want to support us financially by purchasing a copy, you should be well versed in what the project is about and what you're going to get. Unlike a lot of other titles that actually have a lot of gameplay to offer, at this stage in the project, we do not, and we want to be honest about that. What we're doing is we want to share where we are, what our goals are, what our aspirations are, how we're going to get there, and really any financial support by purchasing a copy is helping us meet that vision without the expectation that you're getting something that's playable today. All right, so what is Crush Depth? So Crush Depth, we think about it as a next gen, massively multiplayer online simulation. An MMOS. We call it a online simulation because it's not a peer-to-peer technology. It actually is governed by authoritative servers. And I'll talk a little bit about the technology. And really, what it is, from our perspective, is a curated experience through history, specifically the vehicles that were present in World War II, and even more so the U-boat. That's where, my personal passion comes into play here. Very passionate about, the Type 7 subs. One of my first games I ever played was Aces of the Deep back in the early 90s, and have always been drawn by the basically floating bathtubs, as I love to call them. The fact that you had folks in these vehicles always has fascinated me. Very rudimentary yet advanced technology for the time. And really, what we're doing here is we're creating an experience, a playground where people can play with these vehicles. And we're working on the Type 7, and I'll get into what that means exactly and what we're doing there. And one thing I do want to note is that we are seeking and we are working with other indie devs to expand our world. So, because we are a very small team, and we are focusing on the Type 7, that's where our expertise lie. We're working with other devs that are passionate about other types of vehicles, planes, destroyers on the Allied side, and so on. They also are very passionate about their research. They're putting a lot of time and energy into collecting the information. And we're trying to work with these developers to use the technology that we're building that's enabling crush steps. We want to offer that to those devs so they could put together their vehicles using our same simulation systems. So eventually, you don't have just a U-boat inside of an MMO world where you're firing at AI controlled merchants. Our goal is to eventually allow you to play, you know, allies as well, where you could play a destroyer, be able to hunt a U-boat. You could play a merchant where you could steer the ship, be part of the convoy, and try to, basically deliver your goods without getting attacked and sunk by the U-boats. Or even bombers, being able to spot the U-boats and see if you could successfully take them down.
Yeah,
So
that sounds awesome. So one thing that I think is really underrepresented in just media is the effort of the allies. Um, I guess the last destroyer centered game was Destroyer Command, centered around which was with Silent Hunter 2, like
yeah,
well over a
and
decade ago.
yeah, and if you guys are not familiar, Destroyer, the U-boat hunter, that's also coming out. Their demo's coming out, I believe, next month. So
Hmm.
keep an eye out for that if you're interested in that aspect as well. I think it's something that every U-boat fan will probably find interesting. What's it like on the other side? Trying to hunt the U-boats instead of being the hunters.
For sure.
All right, so a little bit, I'll just kind of skim over some of these technical components of the game. I'll try and keep it light for the non-technical folks. But basically, at the core of what we've built here, even though currently, we have a U-boat that's working to some degree, we have some fidelity in there to showcase what our end goals are. Most of our time has been spent on building some of the large scale kind of foundational technology. That's where I've been spending most of my time in Crush Depth. And I want to share some of the key call outs that are going to make this, a very engaging simulator and a very engaging world where regardless of the vehicle that you're playing within the world, whether it's a U-boat or a destroyer or a plane, these are kind of built-in system level details that can be exposed to the player to make for a very engaging and realistic gameplay experience. First one is that the entire framework itself is built on a WGS84 world model. This means the entire world bathymetry data set, the height map, everything is accurate down to about 15 arc seconds of precision. We're talking about a few dozen meters here. So we have the entire world mapped out, and anywhere you are in the world, the bathymetry and the height map of the land will be accurate. This allows us to do both naval as well as land units inside of our simulated world. We have data sets for salinity, for tides, and for currents of the ocean. And, when we're talking about a U-boat or any type of naval simulator, it's important to remember that these things do affect gameplay, right? When you're able to sneak into a harbor, depending on the tide, the salinity affects the buoyancy. The currents, affect how you're going to be able to navigate, the accuracy of your ability to navigate, how you have to compensate for those things and so on. So these large data sets are part of the core frameworks, and our simulation subsystems actually use the data during simulation time to increase accuracy. We have SkyMap. Unlike the traditional kind of texture-based sky maps, we do use particles. So we use a NASA data set. We have the 10,000 brightest stars in the sky. We've mapped them with 64-bit precision in terms of location as well as brightness. That way, when you're trying to do celestial navigation using a sextant, for instance, it's going to be accurate down to the, arc second, even more accurate than that. So you could actually learn how to use a sextant to navigate and use that properly inside of the game because the data is accurate at that point in time in history, the positions, the brightness, etc. We do have the world magnetic model data set as well that we're using. So when you're talking about, magnetic field skew and how that affects things like the spherical harmonics of the WGS84 data set that we have, and how your compass is affected by that, that is all simulated. I haven't seen that in any other game. So I think this will make for some interesting gameplay because you can't always trust your equipment depending where you are on Earth because the Earth's magnetic field does vary. We have a graphical blueprint style SDK that we built to allow us to basically drag and drop very complex logical components to create complex pneumatic, hydraulic, electric, and other subsystems. So our workflow basically is we acquire blueprints, we acquire schematics, we acquire a lot of data, and then turn that into a simulation system. That simulation system then allows us to basically have your boat react as realistically as possible, given all the other systems I mentioned, all the data sets and everything else. And last one, I mentioned salinity, but we also have, temperature, the wave heights are taken into account. We try and create the most accurate simulation we can to give, again, for the most engaging and engrossing gameplay that one can imagine with the technical limitations of today's technology. From the networking side, everything is 64-bit based. So when you have a player in our MMO map, they're tracked down to the millimeter, and all players exist in the same persistent world at any given time. So if you have two people on opposite sides of the world, they're actually all shared within the same grid. We extrapolate and interpolate the physics. That way we can accommodate for lag, depending on where the players are. And we also take into account, I did mention that we have authoritative servers on the back end. We track the player's position. So when you're close to another player, you start receiving all the data so you could see them, you could interact with them. And when they move far enough away from you to where there's no reasonable way for you to know that they exist, whether it's hydrophone or via visual sighting or what have you, the server intelligently stops sending you the data, informs your client that they're now too far for you to care about them, and then it stops sending you basically all of the network chatter for that person. At the end of the day, what this allows us to do is to have a server that's aware of, potentially tens of thousands of units in the same persistent world, yet it's optimized based on your point within the game map itself. Going on, like I mentioned, we have all kinds of little subsystems we built to do attenuation for voice, do voice-based compartment occlusion, and so on. And finally, this is kind of a very high level of our network infrastructure, where we have the authoritative servers. And I think most importantly, what I want to call out here is that we have dedicated compute servers where the units that you play, let's say it's the U-boat or the destroyer or the plane, that's not running on your client. The problem with client side logic is that it could be hacked, and cheating countermeasures are not easy to implement and enforce. B, the available compute on your personal PC can drastically affect the quality of the simulation. So if you're able to run a physics simulation at 20 frames per second versus 1,000, that's going to affect the total accuracy of the simulation itself. And C, And, just being able to trust that you can give that data out to other players in a timely manner is limited. So instead of having that peer-to-peer architecture, we have the architecture where the clients mainly inform the main authoritative servers what their desires are. So when you go into U-boat and you turn the valve, all of the simulation subsystems are actually occurring on dedicated servers. The server receives the fact that you've turned a valve, and then it simulates what happens. You eventually, your client receives the outcomes of that simulation. So that allows us to really have strict quality controls around the simulation. We're able to inject, data sets that are gargantuan. We could have terabytes of data on, weather maps, salinity maps, etc. So your end Steam client is not burdened by all that. That's just on the server side, and the server needs to know about it. You guys don't. And yeah, this is basically our architecture. It is, from a commercial standpoint, something that, a CEO of a large game company would probably look at this and say, that's very inefficient. It costs quite a bit to, build up these dedicated servers and run them. But like I mentioned, we are hobbyists, and what we want to do is to build a product we would want to play and meet all of the quality metrics we'd want to see met, and not really focus on revenue, because again, at the end of the day, we're here trying to create a title because we're hobbyists and we're passionate about this. And if you're questioning the architecture and the efficiency and so on, that's kind of the rationale there. We're opting for quality and for accuracy over anything else. And I think we are at the end of my deck. Hopefully that wasn't too long.
Oh yeah, I think that was great. Good rundown.
Thank you.
I guess I don't see any questions just yet. I don't know if Jamo saw any. He's been answering them in chat, so that has been fantastic. You want to hop into the game now?
Yeah,
I
let's
suppose.
hop on in.
All
Let's
right.
talk a little bit about the museum as we hop in and go from there.
All right, sounds good. And thanks everybody for the follows and Ninja Dropout. Thanks for the sub, dude. Appreciate that. And get the game up and going. And we will have a proper Q&A session at the end of the stream, but if anyone had any, questions pertaining to the project, as we go through and discuss, just shout them out and then we can try to answer them.
Can we take a minute to just kind of touch upon that terms of screen service that you had up there?
Oh boy, I shouldn't have skipped it. Do you want me to
No.
restart?
Uh, Perhaps it might be worth it if
All right.
everybody's okay with it.
Oh, my bad. I have read it, I promise.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I think it's very important that I call that out, because we are very cognizant and sensitive of the nature of our project, and we want to be honest with everybody about how we treat the subject matter. So the first screen everybody here will see is that you're presented with the verbiage that says this is for mature audiences only. We understand when this takes place and the history behind it, and we ask that if you disagree with any of this, or you're not 18 or older and are mature enough to understand the implications of this period of time, that if you did move forward with a support and you decide it's not the right thing for you, that you request basically an immediate refund, because we're going to be honest, and we're going to also be very empathetic to the content and how we're delivering it at the end of the day.
Perfect.
All right, and we can move on.
Okay.
And whether you have the demo or the full version, you're presented with another little quick burb. If you bought the full version, thank you for supporting the project. If you have the demo, basically this is what you're about to get, and we could jump right on in.
All right.
So the demo, for everybody watching that's not familiar with the project, comes with the museum that we're about to showcase and 2 challenges. Actually, 1 challenge, the Flak challenge.
Okay.
Eventually, we'll have the deck gun challenge. The full version has a sandbox, the MMO world. Both have character customization that we're currently still building, and we have a benchmark available. And this main menu screen is supposed to kind of start getting you in the mood. You know, you're in the BDU and you start kind of getting into character here and starting to slip into the world back in the 40s. And
No,
you're about
yeah. This menu
to.
screen, when y'all introduced it, it's awesome.
Thank you.
I do quite like it.
Excellent. So so the museum that we're about to enter is actually taking place in modern day. So this is a modern day virtual representation of what you would expect to see at a museum, which would have a Type 7. Our goal is to showcase the technology and frame it in a modern day perspective where we are able to talk about, the technology, the war, the casualties, and educate and inform beyond show, the different parts of the vehicles themselves. We also dedicate parts to talking about how we achieve the game. So we talk about our research methodology that everybody will see within the museum itself. And really just keep in mind that it's supposed to be a modern day museum where you're taking a look back in time. We understand that not everybody can go and see U995. It's a personal kind of bucket list item for me. Unfortunately, I've never been there personally. One day I wish I could be. This is the next best thing for me personally. Other members on our team, of course, do visit the boat and they do help restore her. They're part of the team, but personally, I probably won't get a chance to for several more years. So I'm happy to have this. I should say that.
Have you I know I live in the US and it's not a Type 7, but U505 is here and that is a pretty fantastic museum as well.
Yes. Chicago Museum of Industry, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I've been once. I would love to go again, but a little easier than traveling to Germany.
And we do have team members, of course, that frequent her as well.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 museum if anyone is interested. But anyway, yeah, I'll just hop into the museum.
Excellent.
I would also like to see the Type 2 that's in Finland.
Yes.
That would be pretty cool.
Welcome to our virtual museum. Here
Oh
you'll be
boy.
able to explore and learn about the various
we are.
vehicles, objects, and history that you'll.
And here we go.
Perfect. So why
See.
don't we take a stroll, just kind of outline the general outline of the museum, and I think it's a little bit fun to see all of the people that are jumping in, whether or not they're part of the stream and just jumping in to watch us or not.
Yeah, and are you this anonymous fellow?
I am not. Let me see. Wolfpack. This is I'm looking at you right now. I am anonymous, yes.
Oh, okay,
I do
perfect.
actually boot it up with a non-Steam version. It's my hack version. So that's
Okay,
me.
gotcha. All right, yeah, I'll just follow you around and we can go through all the. I guess we can either start with the boat, or just go to the radio room.
Why don't we save the boat for last because she is our masterpiece. So if we
Yeah.
walk around her, we could see she's at the center. And really that's kind of the masterpiece. But before we get there, let's talk about, what we're going to be doing with these other compartments on the side here. The first room we have is the radio room. And what we want to do partly is to create some interactive exhibits. So beyond kind of talking about the different equipment within the boat itself and trying to teach about how, the equipment worked, you can actually interact with the equipment. So you're able to, if you tune in to a Morse band with the telephone code, for instance, you could actually hear Morse code.
Mm-hmm.
You could record that, and then you could use the Enigma machine to decode it. And what we want to do as part of this interactive exhibit is to actually create proper tutorials so visitors can learn exactly how to do that within a museum setting, similar to how you would expect to be able to play around with items at other museums. However, the main way we're actually going to teach people how to use all this equipment is we're going to be building out a school. So when you start your career within the MMO, you're going to go through a series of basically different expertise, right? So you'll learn how to be a diesel engineer, you'll learn how to be an electrician, a radio operator, and each one is going to be a lengthy and involved course, and it will be tedious. If you want to be able to decode Morse, you will have to learn Morse. we will have, different mechanisms to allow for players that don't want to be as dedicated to have automation to help them out. But our goal is to focus on, the hardcore players and ensure that we're true to what one would imagine life aboard a U-boat would be like, which means that having to listen for Morse, making sure you're dialed into the right band, and decoding it properly, following all the procedures from A to Z, which again, some people love, other people won't. So we will have accommodations for those that want a lighter gameplay experience.
Yeah, like difficulty options or automation, I'm assuming.
Yes. And the other thing I do want to note about the school concept we're talking about, you're going to be basically graded on your proficiency. So we will have systems to grade your speed of decoding Morse, your accuracy, and so on. And you'll be awarded badges. And our idea is when you decide to join a boat, for instance, inside of the MMO and play with the skipper, they can see your record. They could see not only your gameplay time and your successes or losses, but they could also see how proficient you are. And if they need a diesel mechanic, for instance, in their boat, they could decide, you know what, you're level 3, you're well versed at what you do. I'm going to choose you for this session. Welcome aboard. We really need you. We're about to have a very, difficult attack, and I need you to know what you're doing, and so on. So that's how we're going to roll some of that up. It's an incentive for players to, spend the time because the difficulty curve isn't going to be light. So spend the time to learn the systems and actually enjoy the process. Learning how to operate diesels can be a lot of fun if you're incentivized to spend the time and learn how to do it. This is not, other titles that you're the skipper and you want to, click at a merchant and click fire torpedo and see her sink. From my perspective as a dev, if it takes you 3 weeks to get a single hit on a merchant, then we've done our job right, because we've put you through the paces where you now are able to do that in a realistic manner.
Yeah.
So we've got the telephone receiver. We have the radio and receiver where you could pick up, wideband. You could pick up radio stations. Behind you here, to the side, we have a transmitter. So this transmitter will be usable like all the other equipment, and you'll be able to send Morse back to BDU, and you'll be able to communicate. Eventually, hopefully, the allies will be able to intercept that and triangulate your position. That's for another day.
And these are all models the team has made, right?
Yes. So one thing about the models, we actually build them with really, really high fidelity. We bake them down for the current game engine, but we are future-proofing our models. If you're familiar with Unreal Engine 5, their nanite system where you can import basically billions of vertices and have them run on pretty recent hardware, that isn't yet available to the game engine we're using, which is Unity. So we're building models much higher fidelity than what you see here. Eventually, as hardware gets better, as Unity gets better and has, more technology behind it, these models will actually look better because they're built better from the ground up from a modeling perspective.
Gotcha.
So that's a radio room. Again, it'll be a very interactive exhibit. It'll allow you to play around, and you can do so now if you tune into a radio station.
Yeah, it's already super interactive. It's awesome.
Thank you. Walking into our propulsion room here, and again, all of these are quite barren at this time. We're still putting the museum together. We're still finding the right layouts. But our propulsion exhibit here has one of the main diesel engines that you'll find aboard the Type 7. It's fully interactive, so you could start her up, you could throttle her up. She is tied to a dyno, so if you turn the dyno clutch on and you spin her up, you'll be able to see the output of her horsepower and torque. We do simulate things such as the compressor system. So in the background, you'll probably hear an air compressor turn on once we use up all of the available starting air, because they did use compressed air to start the diesel. And it's actually...
Yeah, I hear it going right now, I think.
Yep.
I believe.
So we actually have the museum that's staffed by AI that turns on, we have sensors on those compressors, so they'll start up and add more compressed air to the compressed air subsystem. So more museum visitors can start her up, play with her. you're actually able to open up the cylinder cocks there, and you're able to either see the flame if she's running, or you could see the escaping compressed air if she's not, depending on what state she's in. Eventually, you'll be able to play with the fuel oil injectors. You'll be able to hook up a manometer to it to make sure that the combustion inside of the diesel is clean. And again, we'll go as deep as practical as we can. And on the other side of this little compartment here, we have a Junker's air compressor. So this is what we're used to, one of the two compressors used in the boat to compress the air for the diesels and all the other subsystems. And we also have the new electric panels that we have modeled.
And these are interactive in the boat. Are they planned to be interactive here as well?
Yeah, so these here, you'll notice there's a difference between the models in the boat and what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
The boat models are temporary models that are interactive, and these are final quality models.
I see.
So you can see they're much higher fidelity, and we even have things such as you're able to open the little door and look at the fuses.
Yeah.
So as we start talking about the damage model in the game, you'll be able to swap out fuses as they burst due to, depth charges, due to overpowering or overloading the bus, having an operator that, isn't certified to run the engines and they do something silly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't foresee me ever doing that.
So all of this will be full interactive. She's going to be replacing what we have in the boat that we'll show, later on in the stream.
Awesome.
And this is going to be, part of the propulsion system. All of the underlying simulation subsystems for the electrical subsystems are, to some degree based on SPICE. We simulate the bus voltage, the amperage. We simulate the resistance, a fuse when a fuse blows, what that happens to the entire grid. The batteries themselves. So simulation wise, again, it's going to be very high fidelity. From a gameplay perspective, you'll get all the feedback a real soldier would get by basically being able to watch your fuses blow, watch the gauges interact, and kind of bridge the gap between industrial quality simulation and gameplay experience.
Yeah, JMO pointed out there's a picture of the real thing here, so I'm just comparing it side by side. Looks pretty solid to me.
The level of research and scrutiny and QA that we go through for these things is quite impressive. Everybody on the team, the amount of work, and like the engineering guy points out, it is millimeter accurate. And a lot of instances, our models start out in CAD, so they are down to the millimeter in terms of accuracy, and they go through multiple stages to make it to a gameplay model. But they're as accurate as one would want it to ever be or can imagine it being.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's our little propulsion exhibit again. This one is
I fell.
from. I did notice that everybody in the museum decided to fall all of a sudden.
Fantastic.
We have noticed, as we're stress testing this, we've gotten really good response with the demo. So, some bugs are popping up, and I think I've pushed out 10 updates in the last 2 days alone, trying to address everything. So hopefully, a little bit of patience there.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Just hop back. I guess I can just try to reload in, huh? Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Golden.
Here you'll be able
Perfect.
to explore.
So, I guess speaking of that, what's the max, number of people in here and even on the boat, for example, that you're thinking?
So gameplay wise, we're
just
thinking
interrupt 1 second. Wolfpack, did you pick up a camera already, by the way? At your
yeah, I
entrance?
guess I should.
And to help bring history to life, please
Damn.
feel free to pick up a camera, peruse our
Excellent.
displays, and fiddle with the interaction.
So you're able to interact with it, take some photos, and that does get saved to your My Documents.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, in between the propulsion room and the weapons room here, you'll see that we have on display some other models we've been working on. We have a sextant. We have what we think is a floating flashlight that we're trying to find more research on. We have the Leica camera that you're currently using,
Hmm.
and we have localized descriptions about all of these. So depending on the language settings you have, we do the translations.
Yeah,
The other
fantastic.
Thank you. The other display case, has some of the items you can expect to see in the game. We will have a mini cooking simulator, if you will, in the galley. So we are building the models to support that, making coffee, being able to cook food, because that was, one of the stations and one of, part of a U-boat sailor's life.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're accurate and we simulate that.
Did you run into weapons? Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. I ran ahead.
Oh, no,
and
you're fine.
Yeah, take your time. You don't have to follow me. You can take your time and look around. The weapons room is we've crammed in a few weapons. We're probably going to expand this room as we bring in more weapons. We've got the flak gun. We have the deck gun. We have some footage on the walls. We have the gyrocopter here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Type 9 used it. It wasn't very prevalent. It was one of the experiments, but it's here and it's usable if you purchase the actual U-boat, Crush Depth, the actual game, you could actually play with it in the sandbox. So you're able to, the Type 7 didn't have it, it wasn't big enough and fast enough, but basically, if you push the throttle all the way, you could get this thing in the air, and the U-boat will basically pull it along.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. The first I heard of it was like when I was a kid. I bought a model kit that had a Type 9 with this gyrocopter. I was like, what the heck is this? But yeah, it's quite cool.
Thank you. And here we have the TDC that we're working on, and I think the reason why it looks so big is because we have players of different shapes and sizes here.
Heights, yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those painstakingly researched millimeter accurate models that a lot of research went in behind. We have team members that have even found some corrections that we're contributing back to the TVRE official site about its usage and operation after pouring through many, many books and manuals and documents. Let's see, what else do we have
So
here?
if I may be wrong here, but weren't there a couple of variants of the TDC with slight variations? Is there plans to implement those for, early war boats or?
That's a really, really good call out. Yeah, so this is the S3 model, and currently what we're doing is we're trying to tie ourselves to one single boat, one single model, and try and basically model everything, front to bottom, get it fully accurate, and then be able to create permutations from there based on history, based on different equipment. So for now, this is the one we're going to be working with.
I see. And Hoagie said he's hoping there will be English translations, but I don't know. It's a good time to pick up some German, I suppose.
Yeah, so in regards to translations, a lot of the texts you see in the museum on the plaques, for instance, are already translated. We do have different texture sets based on localization, and we do intend to ship basically at least for the text, different textures that get loaded based on your localization. We already do that for the Telefunken radio receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally, if I'm on a German boat, I want everything in German and everyone speaking German. That's how I feel anyway. Even though I can't read it all that well.
The engineering guy agrees with you there.
Yeah. The same if I'm like in a Russian plane. Like, I can't read Cyrillic, but I'll learn the gauges. I guess we also have the Flak Gun and the 88 here.
Yeah, and you're able to actually, again, interactive exhibit, so you can enter it. You can't fire them, of course. It's a museum, but you're able to enter it.
Yeah, that would be quite devastating for these walls.
Anybody that's been with the project for a while and has that access to the project knows that at one point in time
You could
Yes.
shoot them, yeah.
Quite funny. We do have a UZO in the middle of the room, so you're able to interact with it as well if you click on it. You have the WASD keys, and you can use the middle scroll wheel to change the luminosity of the targeting reticle there.
Oh, perfect. Very
There's the
cool.
engine.
And that the luminosity switch is this little one on the side, right?
Yeah, and you'll see it actually if you scroll with your middle mouse button. All the animations are there. So
Oh yeah, look. Yeah, for sure.
not only that, but it actually moves when you exit the binocular. Because it's persistent. You know, everybody will see what you're doing.
That
I'm
is
looking at-
awesome. Yeah, that's really great.
And finally, we have another one of the experimental weapons here. We have the rockets. So yes, they've tried rockets on a U-boat as well, and we have them here. In the main game, if you support us, you get to play with them. I do have a YouTube video if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, and you're able to launch rockets off of the back of your Type 7. They had bigger rockets as well that they actually plan to tow behind a U-boat, take to the east coast of America, and launch rockets at America. And again, it's part of our exploration and understanding of the U-boat technology that we want to showcase. So even though these were not necessarily pervasive, it is absolutely worth, showcasing and calling out and talking about, in our opinion, because it is part of, what makes these machines so fascinating, in my opinion. The crow's nest, yes, there is a photo of a U-boat, as you can see here, with this crow's nest. The photo is on the wall. We're currently doing research to determine if this was specifically for the videos that they were taking, or if they had any function, such as experimenting, trying to see ships further away. We don't have concrete information there, so we're researching. And if you guys know or have more information, feel free to reach out to the team. We always welcome more information.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense for filming. How tall is it?
I don't remember the exact height in meters. I could get that for you. However, again, interactive exhibit, you're able to
Climb
go up.
all the way up, yeah.
Yeah, and you could see it is almost to the top of the conning tower of the boat, so it was quite high.
Yeah.
And this again would get placed on the deck, so you'd be probably another 10, 15 meters above that.
Yeah.
So it would offer some good visibility and a very good perspective for some photos. Right. The future room showcases some of the vehicles that we could anticipate to have inside of our MMO. Again, because the underlying technology supports it, there's no reason why we can't take this Tiger 2 here, for instance, apply the simulation subsystems we built for, whether it's the engine, the diesel itself, the electrical subsystems, the damage subsystems, and be able to have this as a fully playable unit within the game world itself. Just an example of, how far we could take this.
Oh my goodness. What's wrong with Fat Tony? Yeah.
He is feeling a little seasick.
Yeah.
So I have to admit that was one of our first features. We realized that being on a U-boat sometimes isn't for everybody. So
yeah, that's hilarious. Actually, very unexpected. I should have whipped out my camera for that. Put that one on the Instagram.
And as we walk out of the future room, you'll see a Bieber midget submarine over here. And this one I'm personally excited about. I want to make this our next challenge that'll be available to everybody. The idea behind the Bieber is that, it's a single person submarine. We've been working with a lot of museums, and if Jamo's on this call, he could talk to you about, the links he's gone to try and get blueprints and data about this. So feel free to interrupt me, Jamo, if you're here to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. I'll talk a little bit about it. We've been looking into this for the past couple of weeks, actually, ever since we, got the idea to start implementing this in our project. There were a bit more than 300 of these machines made. They were very unsuccessful, actually. It was very much a last-ditch sort of dramatic effort by the Germans to try to thwart an Allied invasion of the mainland. A lot of these operated from the Netherlands, actually, where I'm from. And there's a couple of museums in the Netherlands where they have one of these. There's one in Nieuwdorp, there's one in Vlissingen, there's one in Overloon. Probably very unfamiliar places to you. But the big problem we ran into in researching this is that none of the beavers that survived the war were really complete. Huh? They were all partially damaged, partially incomplete for some other reasons, and a lot of them have been restored by museums, but in different ways because they work with incomplete information. Huh? And most of the blueprints were also destroyed after the war. Now, lately, I've been in touch with an organization in the Netherlands who have been through, who have taken the effort of taking the 25 beavers they in reasonable state that survived the war and reverse engineering them based on all these partial surviving beavers to get a good idea of what the thing would actually look like and function like. So we're hoping to use that information to recreate it as it should function in our project as well.
Yeah,
So
That's about what I have to say to it. Yeah, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun actually as well. You know, calling these people, and everybody seems to be very, very supportive and excited about our efforts there.
yeah. I mean,
So I'm looking
honestly,
forward to it. No?
midget submarines are just something that's gets a little less sexy. People don't care about as much, but they are fascinating.
Yeah.
and you know,
Maybe Marius can talk about this much more, of course, but also from a technical developmental stance, it makes a lot of sense to try this out.
Yeah, I guess it'd be a good way for, you know, a test bed for torpedoes and stuff like that, like implementing them.
I'll leave the rest to Marius. So hit me up if you want me to say anything more.
Cool. Thank you so much, Gemma. Yeah, so really, we have two reasons why we're pursuing the Bieber here. One, it ties into, you know, our desire to capture. Oops, there it goes again. Sorry about. We do have to find what's causing that.
Oh, no problem.
So, in regards to the Bieber, it does tie into, you know, our desire to again capture and convey the time period, the technology, and everything associated with, you know, naval warfare at that point in time. So
Oh,
Bieber
welcome to our
was
working
something,
museum.
you know, it was a real
Here you'll be
vehicle.
able to
It's very interesting, and it's worth preserving. We mentioned, you know, in other streams and videos that the unfortunate reality of, you know, some of this technology is that physical items age. As Jamo mentioned, you know, it's very difficult to find complete sets of Biebers. You know, it takes a lot of volunteers and a lot of money to keep them and preserve them alive physically. Preserving them, you know, in a virtual way enables others to get access to them and helps reserve them beyond, you know, their physical lifespan. So we're excited that eventually, you know, when we do have the funding and we could do, you know, point cloud 3D scans of these things and we could capture them down with even more accuracy beyond the blueprints, that we can give them a home, make them available eventually, you know, through our project, not just inside of the game, but through other forms. We do have, I don't know if we have Jonathan on the call, but we do have a way where we disseminate a lot of this knowledge, you know, blueprints through the blueprint archive, where we make this available to folks.
I'm here.
So, oh, there you are. Would you like to talk a little bit about, you know?
Of course. It's my favorite subject. I tell everybody about it whether they like it or not. Yeah, so we, well, I guess I'll start with the blueprint archive. So when Marius and me kind of first started talking about this, you know, we had the same goal, and we were like, you know, how can we show history in a way that's never been done before in a game, a simulation that you know, it's like, if you think about it, it's almost harder to make a game mechanic in a video game. It's like you have to learn a game. It's like we're just taking mechanical principles that are known and just applying them. The script's already been written. And so it's, you know, I'm not the most creative guy, but if I find a blueprint, you know, we can digitize it, we can take a picture, it doesn't have to be scanned, and we can put it into SolidWorks, AutoCAD, whatever. And now that blueprint is preserved. I mean, you know, you think about blueprints, they're just, you know, it's a medium to convey information. And it was the way to do it in the 1940s. So the paper is not important, but what's on the paper is very important. You know, dimensions, critical tolerances, stuff like that. And if you can take that and you can make it into a 3D object. It's like a pro generator model. You're able to use that in a lot of different things. And, we can help museums, they help us. We can use it in the game. We can know exactly how, we don't have to worry about scaling a model. It has a lot of uses. So,
Yeah, cool.
Thank you. And the second reason behind including this is it allows us to, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but I was just gonna look away from the train. Whatever's happening.
Alien.
A very interesting clientele. We had a vomit all over the floor. No, whatever this is.
And these are some fun lessons that we've been learning about, what happens when you have players that troll the museum and they won't let you use, the radio or the deck gun, and they're just taking things over. So we love this opportunity to learn and think about, what we can do to remediate these issues. But yeah, sorry, back to the Bieber. We do want to create a challenge scene where it's going to be one of our first fully simulated vehicles, from buoyancy to electronics to everything. So it's going to be a smaller scale where we could test everything, ensure it works right, give some fun gameplay, hopefully, by using it. And soon, hopefully, we'll have it in one of our smaller challenges where you can get in it and run it.
Yeah, it'd be cool to do like a little port raid or something. I'm not sure what their exact intended purpose was. If they were like the British X type submarines, they attacked the Tirpitz, if they had any plans like that, but
all right, let's see. Finally going into our last area that we've kind of built out, we have the research area. So we could see the engineering guy standing over here looking at his beloved materials. And we do appreciate the enormous effort he's gone through to acquire this vast collection that you see here. This is some of the research material that we actually have acquired that we draw a lot of the information from. I mentioned we have to not only model these objects, but we have to simulate them. So we have to basically reverse engineer everything. For the electrical subsystems, you have to understand not only, the bus itself, but all of the components, the resistance values, the performance characteristics of the different components, to be able to simulate it to where it's, it's fairly accurate and representative of how it behaved in the real world. So here is just, a sample of the materials we've collected to be able to do that for just the Type 7. And one of the reasons why, the engineering guy points out, these 60 that we've scanned for the content of the game, you can see he's typing in game there. We have over 300 total, etc.
Geez, that's impressive. I'm guessing it's you have 300 physical and digital copies.
Yes. Yes, and just to be transparent with everybody, this material is not free. Unfortunately, these are not readily available, and a lot of the funding that we got from the early supporters that I really think went directly into acquire some of these materials to move the project forward, because we can either take a guess at how something reacts, or we could acquire the actual plans, from these books and reverse engineer it. So we have a, much more confidence in our ability to simulate how they actually operated based on all this information.
Awesome. Yeah, this is actually super cool. It must be awesome just to even have a collection of these resources. It's very cool.
And I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of pages. So again, I want to thank everybody on the team. The amount of time everybody spends in not just acquiring and finding the information, but actually going through it, helping, decipher it, reverse engineer it, and putting all the pieces together. Because sometimes you do have, competing information, and you have to decide what is accurate or how things fit together. The Bieber being a perfect example. You have 30, model specimens left that you kind of have to piece together almost like an archaeologist to figure out what the intended exact operational values were.
Yeah.
On
yeah.
on
I
the
love
wall,
this.
other subsystems such
On
as
this
you.
wall?
propulsion that
On the wall, yeah, we have some more schematics. We're going to be beautifying the entire area with more information. We have the latest YouTube video that we put out on YouTube here on the wall that talks about some of the graphical user interface APIs and SDKs that we put out that we hope to make available to partner devs that want to build vehicles inside of our MMO simulation. They could basically focus on the research, focus on building out the simulation with our subsystems, and then having their unit live inside of our world.
Oh yeah, this is great. And I mean, they're highly detailed too. Like the quality on this like schematic is a lot better than a lot of what you find on the internet.
Yeah, so I mean, and of course, this has been compressed down to be usable in a game, whereas the real one is probably 3-4 times higher quality than this even. Um, some of the research that we have, yeah, it's just very good quality. Some of it not so much, and we have to rebuild in some instances. There's a lot of descaling that has to happen, especially from photographs of some of these books, to make sure that everything is deskewed appropriately and we have accuracy.
I see. Yeah.
I was going to say in real life, especially so up in College Park, Maryland, at the National Archives, they have some of the original blueprints on the Bismarck, the Tirpitz,
Oh, are you
and
serious?
Scharnhorst. Yeah, and they're about 4 feet tall and about 12 feet long. They take up an entire research table when you unroll them. It's incredible. I mean, there's handwritten notes. They use different color inks, for the hot and cold water plans. I mean, they are gigantic.
That's
And they're actually
amazing.
so big they can't scan them in, so they have special preservation techniques. Plans this big.
No, yeah, that's pretty sweet. So, yeah, oh, very cool.
Yeah, and you know what? I really want to just say thank you to everybody on the stream. We actually are holding the count up, and I can't believe we're keeping everybody interested. I see the activity there. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to thank folks by maybe giving out a cue or two to the people that have been active and asking questions, just to show our gratitude for for the participation.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how y'all want to do it. If you want to, if Jamo wants to pick some people, or you can just throw the key. I guess it's a Steam key. What I'm pretty crude when it comes to giveaways. I just throw them in there and let them go at it like wolves.
No, I think that's somewhat unfair. That is more you get
I-
rewarded for your copy pasting skill. So what I would like to do actually is what they normally do if I see it on Twitch. If you want to get a key, we're gonna give away some keys. Then pick a word. I'd say Wolfpack.
Pick a what? A word?
A word, yeah, to put in the chat, and then we'll give you 5 minutes, and then we'll pick one from the people who have responded with that word, and then I'm gonna ask them connect to our Discord, and I'll send you your key privately through DM.
Maybe just a number. Or
just type 1 if you want to participate in this little raffle.
Okay, yeah. If you want a key, yeah, type 1. That works.
Okay, no, we'll come back in 5 minutes, and then we'll pick one of the people here.
Yeah.
In the meanwhile, I say carry on.
Incredibly fascinating.
A lot of ones. Now engineering guy typed 1. He said type 1. Oh my gosh, that's extremely literal. Fantastic. Well, is the books and research, do you have future plans for future rooms or?
Absolutely. And I mean, this museum right here, what you see is all about the U-boat, all about, the Type 7. Our plans encompass, like I mentioned, because we're going to have other vehicles, it's very reasonable to assume that this is one of what will be a sprawling city of basically warehouses dedicated to different vehicles. A destroyer itself would probably have a very similar building with in-depth data. I don't want to constrain this project to what we're able to offer as a small team as we stand today. if we're inviting other devs to spend the time and effort to build a similar level of accuracy vehicle inside of our game world, I think we want to, offer the opportunity to showcase that technology as well, dive into all of the research, the hard-earned research, and dedicate just as much time and focus on other vehicles as well. So within this room, we are definitely going to we do have a plan for, more exhibits for the Type 7. This is literally, I would say, the demo, the roughest shape you'll ever see the game in. Just to open it up and show people what we're about. Appreciate the stream, our opportunity to talk about it, and just get some folks to be aware that we're here and this is what we're doing and what we're building, and you're welcome to join us for the ride. Download the demo, and when we do update the main title, we update the demo in parallel. So anything we add in terms of models, in terms of systems to the U-boat, you'll be able to play with. And I think that's a perfect transition to the boat itself.
Oh yeah.
If we are to step into it, this is basically an in-game representation of what the boat looks and feels like when you buy the full demo. You're able to sail this inside of the sandbox. All of these toggles and switches inside of the real game, not the demo, of course, because you're in a museum, actually run and operate the electric engines. And when this is running in the MMO, you will have a team of, hopefully we can keep at least 18 separate players busy operating a boat, but physically in a real boat, they could cram 40, 50 people. So we expect this to be true here. These diesels, you could look at the streams on YouTube.
Yeah, I've actually, that's the one video I have is showcasing the diesel startup and all that, which are really well done and look great.
Okay. Again, this is all still rough, right? This is just kind of a proof of concept of, this is what we're working on, what we're working towards, and we expect it to take time, right? Doing things right and
Wolfpack, do you want to pick one of the winners from the people who put in the chat, or?
How about, an unbiased way would be for you to do it. I don't want to be the bad guy. Ruining dreams.
In that case, I'm going to be very methodical about it, and I'm going to count how many people did. I'm going to get a random number generator.
Oh my gosh, you don't have to.
I'll be 1 second more.
Okay. Oh, and look at this. I would not want to be down here.
Well, yeah, so I mean, being able to test the electrolyte and put fresh water into batteries and stuff is going to be something that you're going to have to do as part of routines on the boat. As you can see, again, the models are rough. It's a work in progress, but you get the idea of being able to open every hatch, turn every valve, click every toggle, and so on. That's what we're going for. As we move to the center of the boat, you see all the air manifolds we're working on and what we're building. Again, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
We have to reverse engineer all the plans, build all of the pipes. I mean, the diameters of the pipes vary between each one. And the reason that's important to us as a simulator is because we have to simulate what the flow of either air or water would look and actually do inside of the different diameters. So when you have a joint in a pipe, you have, different coefficients that affect the flow. You have, different things we have to take into account. So it's not just modeling that pipe, but understanding how that pipe fits in with the rest of the system. And the way we model this is by the moles or the units of gas that are getting transferred. So when you have ambient air inside of the boat, and that ambient air gets sucked into the diesel, it's not just oxygen or carbon that gets pulled in, it's other gases as well, right? So we're simulating, how does that gas burn? How does that affect, the diesel itself? And this is silly, but when a sailor, has flatulence inside of the ambient air, he emits certain moles of methane inside of that cabin. So your sailor, your virtual sailor is now breathing in not just oxygen and nitrogen, but also methane that was emitted from another sailor's.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Fascinating. Yeah, the level of detailed here is nuts. It's insane. It is very very interesting as well.
If I could butt in, I like to talk about this stuff. So everything you see, like all those valves on the floor, or the stiffening rings in the hull, all of this is from original Kriegsmarine blueprints. So I mean, we have the steel section profiles, we have the steel type. So you know the yield strength and the tensile strength of the steel. Each one of these valve handles is a Kriegsmarine standard. We have the book for that. It's modeled. Um, Steel thicknesses for everything in the hole down to the 0.5 millimeter. That was the typical tolerance.
Yeah, even the
Um,
ribs actually on the pressure hull, the shape, the size, I mean, they were not the same width. The thickness, it's all, not just modeled visually, but also taken into account eventually in the damage simulation for how, that specific area of the pressure hull will react to basically the impact of depth charges or other outside forces.
I see. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's incredible that a whole drafting department back in the 40s with a bunch of guys with slide rules and paper, did the static calculations for the amount of stress that this thing could take underwater, by hand, no
Yeah.
calculator, no
Jeez.
computers.
Perfect. And
And I guess we have the bow quarters and whatnot.
yeah, so as we go forward, you'll see,
Oh, yeah.
that are kind of half baked here. You have, the two radio rooms where you had the hydrophones, you had the receiver and transmitter equipment. Some are in there, some are not. It's basically we're roughing it out. Mainly our purpose is to make sure that we're honest to the measurements in terms of accuracy, in terms of spacing, offset from the ribs, which are kind of our guides for the entire boat. We invest a lot of time and effort into getting not just the shape and size of the ribs themselves, but actually the pressure hull thickness to make sure that everything lines up.
And this is where it ends.
You could actually
Oh,
go through.
wow. Oh.
Looks like we have a culling issue, but there you go. One more.
Yeah, this is last time I played this wasn't here, so cool.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, we actually have a lot more model than what you end up seeing in the game. It's just a priority of, what do we focus on? Do we focus on moving half-baked models in just to kind of, rough out and fill out the boat? Or do we continue iterating on them and making them better, and then we bring them in? So because, again, we're all kind of hobbyists on this, we have to really budget our time and balance where the time goes.
Makes sense.
So what we do is we actually share a lot of the photos on our Discord of, hey, this is actually what we have. It hasn't made it into the game, but this is where we're at. And
Yeah,
the same idea.
Speaking of your Discord, I don't know if JMO wanted to throw the link in the chat as well.
Thank you. Great idea.
I already have, but I'll do it again.
Yeah, just go for it.
There we go. So yeah, the Discord. Can you use the toilet? Pongster is asking, as with many things in the project now. Not right now, not quite yet, but most definitely something that we are working on will implement. What else? Oh yeah, link to the Discord. The Discord is by far the best place to follow our project, I would say, because I post weekly updates there every Thursday. Up till short, we did weekly update videos on YouTube every week, but it's a little bit too much overhead actually. But if you're interested in, say, how the development of the project has been over the last couple of weeks and months, go have a look there as well. I'll put a link to our YouTube channel as well. And I hope to see you all on Discord as well, where we do most of our communication. You can also go there, just to have a chat and send me a message. That's what I'm mostly for. Hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, perfect.
So one thing I hate to do to you, but I'll be honest and transparent about the state of the bugs in our museum. I'm going to kick everybody off so we could run back in. I really want you to get a sneak peek down the elevator, which seems to, for some reason, break intermittently. So if I do a quick reset on the level and you jump back into the museum, we should be able to run into the elevator that's to your left as soon as you spawn in.
Okay.
and welcome to our virtual
And
museum.
it looks like you're the second
Here,
player,
you'll
so
be able
hopefully
to
we're going to be lucky.
The tower?
Yes.
Oh,
And-
even got the music.
I don't know if you're streaming it, but that's our homage to the best ebook movie ever.
I see. Oh yeah, it is. I hear it now. I have never heard the. Did someone on your team make this?
Yeah, we did.
That is too good. That is amazing, actually.
And here is, again, what you could imagine you would find in a real life virtual museum, or not virtual in this case, but I could imagine seeing this in a museum where you have a mock-up.
Oh
of,
yeah.
And you have a projector screen with 360 video with the convoy, and you're able to use the deck gun, and you're able to use the Uzio to sight in and get the bearing, and you're able to, it's a family-friendly attraction where you're able to play around with a little mock-up. And that's kind of the concept between the dome here, where this will get built out, and of course,
There's quite a
all
few
the little-
destroyers out there. Seems like a bad idea.
yeah, I think those are two tankers actually.
Oh really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Oh yeah, this is actually pretty sweet. Like you said, exactly like something you'd see in a museum for sure.
Yeah, it's rough right now, of course, but again, we're working hard to make all of this, bring it up to the level of quality that we'd be proud of. And if you're still open to it, I think we could jump into the Flak challenge and show off, some of the mechanics of what using a Flak gun would look like that everybody can get in the demo.
Yeah, sure thing. I am going to just grab water. It'll be like 10 seconds. 1 second.
Worries. Thank you all again. I'm going to take a quick second to read through some of the comments, see if I could answer any questions. Imagine this except with Bismarck or Yamato. Yep. I mean, we can all dream. And really what we're doing, Juno 19 official, is we're building the technology to, allow teams that are as passionate as we are about this Type 7, which are passionate about other vehicles like the Bismarck, to be able to build that and have it run in a simulation system that offers them everything they need out of the box to simulate the ship and to have it live in a rich world that has, other players running other vehicles. That way the dev team doesn't have to worry about creating a game. They just focus on creating a vehicle inside of what will be, a game in itself. See here. I vote for filling out a boat with incomplete compartments. Being restricted to complete areas feels stifling. We agree. We've been talking as a team amongst, what our next steps are now that we have a demo out, and would roughing out the boat with, basically boxes and rectangles to allow you to start interacting with systems be the right approach as a next step, just so we can start getting playability inside of the game where maybe the models aren't complete or finished, but at least now the boat is being simulated and you could operate it to a deeper degree. So we've been considering that. We have been talking about it. So we appreciate your vote and the feedback you provide in regards to what you'd like to see next.
All right, and I am back. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Just one little thing for the stream itself. We have a couple of outstanding questions.
Okay.
What was his name again? T3 Bear. He asked something that requires a little bit longer explanation than just saying yes or no. So I think best now to hold those for after the stream. Then we'll do a little Q&A session. Question of your Dan as well. How is this project being financed? Do you have a publisher? That's also something we can go into detail about.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll save it for the end of the stream.
Perfect. Are you recording those down so we could tackle them then?
I am not, no, but I'll. Chat goes a little bit too fast for that for me, but I'll
It's
try
alright.
and remember them. Yeah.
You can ask again at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one other thing I do want to mention. My alerts for when you guys follow is not working currently, and I just wanted to apologize for that. I'm not sure what's going on there, but my bad.
We broke Twitch. I think some of the bugs escaped. the
Yeah,
new
I
chat.
know I always have issues with them, but yeah, sorry guys, but thanks for the follows regardless.
Perfect. Bulibo 432. I'd love to try it after a cheeky Steam sale. We are currently on sale in the MMO open world, by the way. So it is currently on sale. Grab the demo at least. That way you could get updates whenever we push updates to the main title.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Yeah.
I think that's something we should put out as well, that the demo we have now is also still in development. We're not going to say this is the demo and that will be it forever. We'll be adding stuff to the museum, of course, and we'll be expanding and adding new challenges, which we haven't seen as well.
Yeah, so just to mention, everything that we do to the boat is automatically added to the museum. So it's immediately available for visitors. So when we push out an update to the main title, in parallel, the museum is updated. Partly because, we want to keep players up to date on exactly what's happening, and partly because the architecture of the game, where you have to have a client that speaks the same language in order for it to interact with, the same set of servers. All right, so jumping into the Flak challenge, let's go into that little scene and talk about what you see here in some of the items that we're showcasing.
Okay, sounds good. I think I accidentally clicked on the deck gun challenge, but I will back out of that.
That's a preview for everybody because it's not yet available in the demo, because we feel that we still have some work to do on the deck gun before we can publicly expose it to non-supporters.
Gotcha.
But yeah, if you back out and go to a Flak Gun challenge, the first thing I want to kind of reiterate is that because this is a persistent game, the first thing you're going to see is a bunch of bullet shells, flak shells around the Flak Gun. Other players have used the Flak Gun before you. Their shell casings were emitted, and now they're on the ground, and there they are. Eventually, the server does clean them up. Otherwise, you'd have a mountain.
Yeah. Now, am I going to be able to get a broom and sweep these off of my conning tower?
Don't see why not.
That's all. I actually like that is extremely cool. It's little stuff like that I really like, which may be I don't know. I don't even think there's another subsim. I'm like, no, there's not, that shows like shell casings. At least stock. I know like there's mods for Silent Hunter, but they disappear pretty quickly and whatnot. That's awesome.
I mean, this, the kind of passion and detail we want to put into this, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We're showcasing.
Well, that they're physical models proper. They're also influenced by gravity. They roll around and those sort of things. They collide with each other. It's not just visual gimmickry, so to speak.
Yeah, and when players decide to explode flak near you, and your shells fly, that's because the physics force of that flak shell exploding near you has basically pushed out all of the casings. So he basically used a broom, so to speak, by exploding a flak shell near you. So before you get on the Flak Gun, if you don't mind, if you walk up to this table, what I want to kind of showcase is the interaction mechanism. So if you pick up the book, this is content that we created. You're able to click through it. So left and right click, you're able to click through it. We're going to have, of course, an English version, but it kind of tells you what the challenge is all about. It's a cheeky little book, and I think Jamo can talk a little bit about more because, he basically made this based on the real books.
So yeah, let me drop a link in the chat real quick. I have to look it up 1 second. But there I have it. What the German army did for the people who served on tanks, the Tigers more specifically, is that they made a little booklet for them, which was a little bit cheeky with stupid cartoons and stupid rhymes in there. Yeah, indeed, like AMS is saying, the Tiger Fieber. And what we try to do is recreate that kind of style, that kind of manual, but then specifically for the Flak Cannon, which doesn't, exist historically, but, just as a sort of attempt to recreate the same style and the same feeling, because there's technical manuals on one hand, which are very long and complicated, and then there are these little primers, as they call them. So yeah, that's what we make. I hope you like it.
No, yeah, these books are awesome. The German books for like aircraft too are still fantastic. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, those are the two famous ones. You have the one for the Tiger and one for the aircraft. The aircraft, the AOB is explained by this woman taking off a bath towel step by step a little bit further.
Yeah, I gotta love that. Like,
and just to confirm, we are going to make an English version as well. I just haven't gotten around to how do you say, do the typesetting for the English translation, which I believe is already done, but just something I need to clear an hour in my schedule for.
And did you draw these, or like
the drawings?
No. Okay, I was just wondering. I was about to say that would have been about to say you were quite the artist, but
I am planning to redo the drawings, by the way, because this style, it's a little bit more 1950s, 1960s pop art style.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to replace them actually by drawers more of the Fleischer, Walt Disney kind of style, which I find quite hard to recreate actually.
Yeah.
But I'm learning it, so I took up a cartoon drawing course, for this. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
The way this ties into our broader strategy is, I mentioned the schools that you'll have to go through to get certified on different equipment, different positions. This is part of getting the player engaged to want to spend the time to understand all the systems. Again, we see bugs here, so I apologize for that. But the inventory system, X, you could hide and bring up. You could press E and you get a little scroll menu that shows you an item you could select. And you're able to pick up the different items on the table, the camera, you have the chronometer as you're playing with here, and so on. And yes, Instinct 84, the barrel on the flak gun is turning red because of the heat, and it is emitting a heat at the end of the barrel. You could see it there. It's been abused, and at this point in time, we should probably replace the barrel. That is our goal. Eventually, we will have that level of fidelity where you could swap barrels like they could in real life, because you basically melted it by the time it gets red.
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's
how much firing time until that happens? Out of curiosity, is it?
So each bullet emitted affects the heat, and I don't recall because it's basically it cools down when you stop using it, so it's in nature. It's not like it takes 20 bullets. In terms of continuous fire, I forgot. We did at one point in time measure it. I don't remember what it is. It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
As you can see,
point out though that the way it is set up now, the bullet turns red earlier than it would in real life.
Okay.
Because the thing is, of course, in computer games we don't have the luxury of actually feeling heat, so we need to give some other warning to the user. Yeah, you're overdoing it now. But we have calculated it, because normally a barrel would start damaging already, and you will get problems with cooking ammunition, those sort of things, long before it would turn actually red hot. The temperature would be higher as well. But we have calculated, we know the material this is the barrels are made of, we know the specific heat capacity, we know how much energy is put out with every bullet, 47,000 kilojoules, I believe. Or 47, what is it? Yeah, 47,000 kilojoules. So, from there we can calculate how much each bullet would heat the barrel and, create a critical point there. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the planes that you see are actually controlled by the compute grid that we spoke about earlier. So they're not being executed locally on your client when they are basically flying around. These are compute grid controlled AI planes that are flying around that you can shoot at. If you take them down, all of the hits are registered on the server itself, and it's hard to shoot down the plane, just like it was on a U-boat, right?
Yeah.
The flak was almost useless, basically. However, you can, if you're good enough, take it down, and that's what the whole challenge is about, seeing what your accuracy is, how many bullets you use to take a plane down, and really just incentivizing you to play around and get to know the different mechanics and systems in a fun way.
Yeah, cool. I think Sunderland's a little too fast for me. I need like
Yeah.
a swordfish or I don't.
So, yes, let's see here. I'm reading some of the comments. Yeah, thank you very much. Let's see here. VR implementation, not yet. It's not in the plans. And main reason for that is we should be able to overlay the VR semantics pretty easily into the game engine based on how the code base is structured. The reason we're not pursuing it yet is because VR takes, very high FPS rendering, 120 frames per second per eye. So you need a pretty beefy computer to render this at an acceptable frame rate. And right now, as it is, we realize that because of the mining with cryptocurrency and the fact that nobody's been able to get an RTX card for years, it's unlikely we're going to have most of our player base that are into U-boats have decent setups for a few years. So until the average player has a better setup, we're not going to be pursuing VR just because folks don't have the required compute power.
My game went kaput. I'm not sure what happened.
Did it just disconnect or just die?
It was a very loud noise, and then it sounded like a A10 warthog was strafing me, and then it kind of hung up. I'm not sure how I managed that one.
You know what? I will take the blame for it. It is, a buggy demo. We have come to realize that. Now that we have, some significant load being placed on the server, again, I think everybody, it's a great problem to have from my perspective, where you have, people interested in causing issues that are really hard to replicate until you have, significant load on the server. So thank yous and apologies at the same time to everybody.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Did everyone else crash, or was it just me, out of curiosity?
It looks like it says connecting on the server, so there could be a server side issue.
I see. I'm gonna take it as I shot that plane down. That's what happened.
Wasn't happy about it.
yeah. Oh yeah,
So-
fantastic.
Do we want to do another giveaway while we're here?
Sure, and maybe we'll take some questions in the meanwhile as well. There are still some questions outstanding. I can scroll up a little bit in the chat, of course. What was his or hers name again? Started with a V. The Velociraptor had a couple of questions, which should be. Could you repeat some of those, and then we can get into those. And in the meanwhile, we'll do a little cheeky giveaway as well.
Are you
What should
able,
I? Huh?
Are you able to jump in the MMO, by the way, Wolfpack, while we're doing the giveaway?
Yeah, let's see.
So if you're interested in obtaining a key for, say, the main product, demo is still downloadable for free. I'll put a link again in the chat. Go check it out.
Oh,
We're on
nice.
sale as well for the entire weekend as part of the open world sale. What you see here is the MMO world indeed. So this is something that is not included in the demo. Still also in its very, very early stages, but I think Marius and Wolfpack will now talk a little bit about, the architecture and the idea behind this, and how we're going to evolve this in the main game mode, so to speak.
Yeah, so this here connects to, our persistent game world. And what we have is we have a compute grid controlled T2 tanker over there. And we have this Italian motorboat in basically the game world. And when you're connected to the MMO, this is basically connected to what we have as the main core gameplay idea. We have the sandbox over here, and you're able to hop on the shared boat. you're able to chase down convoys, because we are able to spawn convoys if we want to
Oh
on
no,
demand.
I fell. Oh, okay, I'm back. All right. This thing's moving pretty quick. No safety railing either.
No.
I fear. Very
Uh,
intimidating.
yeah, I'm pushing it to the limit here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have your sound on for the stream, but I'm going to go ahead and turn on the radio here. I prefer some tunes while I'm trying to chase down a tanker.
Yeah, go for it. Makes me think like a PT boat would be awesome.
And
we have a PT boat.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Yep. We just have to implement it in between
Uh,
because it needs some retexturing and those sort of things. T2 with the tanker there also is not finished. You know, the model is quite good, I would say, but the texturing still needs a lot of work. Just talked about rehauling that today, actually, so you'll soon see a brand new T2 tanker. Needs work on the buoyancy physics and those sort of things as well. But, you know, it's a proof of concept. We're mostly interested in, can we, does it work with the networking framework? Huh? Quite hard to track all the position of all these things on the server side and communicate that back to the players. Huh? If you see now, we have a lot of different entities in the world already. Huh? We have players, you see Sir CJ, Marius, yourself, different ships, you know, and they're all being run on the server, their positions. So this all needs to communicate with each other. And what makes it a lot harder is that our world is not flat either. It's a proper spherical world with a proper horizon. So maybe, can we show that in some way, Marius?
Yeah, so we can. So like I mentioned, we have a full oblate spheroid representation of the entire Earth. If you press the C button, you could basically turn on into fly camera, press it once more,
okay. Oh yeah, there we go.
and go ahead and just zoom out. Press the shift key and zoom out and fly around. You could even press the M key while you're at it to bring up the world map. The little
Heck
of
yeah. Yeah,
and
I can see it now, the curvature.
yeah.
Pretty easily.
So it's not just a curvature from the client side, from how you're looking at it, and you're basically your game, but it's full circle world on the server side. So the server's cognizant of where the player is at any point in time, their longitude, latitude. Their physics are affected by gravity. Like I mentioned, not just the fact that the Earth pulls you, but the world magnetic model and how that affects all the other subsystems. So there's a lot happening that's kind of under the hood, but this is a good example of, you know, this is a world being tracked and simulated here. And this tanker is fast. I don't know if we could catch up to her. We do have simple AI built in, and I think she is trying to run from us. I think she is going as fast as we can.
Oh, they're well aware.
We are now hitting, what is that, 7.3 knots, 8 knots perhaps?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a little bit faster normally, yeah.
Yeah. And the more
I'm
people we
trying
have,
to run her aground though, so.
the more people we have on this little Italian boat, the slower it's going to go, because, you know, everybody adds weight to her. So we're over encumbered.
Oh
We
my
gotta-
gosh, that is awesome. Even the characters add weight. Now, I guess, is that something? I guess so. Trimming your boat, if you have everyone in the bow, is going to cause issues. You can do stuff like that.
Especially in the U-boat, where, you know, it's not an easy job to get that thing stable and
Yeah.
keep it at proper height. And the shape of the boat itself affects, you know, how it reacts in water. So you have to compensate for it depending on the speed of the U-boat underwater and the shape, how that's going to affect the trim. And
No, yeah, it is fascinating how much work went into just trimming the boat so it's stable. I had no idea how difficult that was before.
Oh yeah, weight and balance just like an aircraft.
Yeah.
And you know, this is the beauty of what we're trying to accomplish. You're trying to give players an insight into a gameplay experience that is not traditional, right? These are systems that are a little bit deeper, but can still be fun and presented in a way that I think can be educational. I foresee a lot of folks, becoming interested in the different subsystems like diesels. How do diesels work? How, the electrical engineering aspect of this. Once you start getting to know, the voltage, amperage, and how those two work together and how they affect all the different connected systems and so on. So yeah.
Congratulations to Mr. Stanier, or Stanier, or however I have to pronounce that. He won the raffle. So a key for the full project going his way now.
Nice.
As soon as I get a response, what's the best way to send it? Can I send it through a whisper on Twitch here itself, or else, just hop on over to our Discord and I can send it to you there as well. I'll put another link to that. Also for everybody who's just interested in keeping track of our progress and our future updates. I'll talk to you there.
Okay, so let's see here. Link talked about two Gargo ships, one flat chart, the other, spherical proper chart. Why is a spherical world so important? And why, did we share that in our earlier YouTube videos and made such a big hassle about it? Well, of course, when you're talking about a U-boat or a plane, the horizon becomes apparent. It affects, your ability to sight ships at a certain distance. But more important, unless you're able to properly simulate the curvature of the Earth, the distances you're going to travel, if you're using a chart, for instance, to determine distance, is going to be a little weird. Because you're not just going straight across the line. The world is not only curved, it's an oblate spheroid, right? Where the equator is wider than at the poles. So unless you simulate that accurately, your travel times are going to be off. Which again, from a hyper-realistic simulation perspective, is not something that you'd want to see in a game that tries to emulate, the realities of naval navigation, if you will. Yep, so here we are. The AI is doing a great job of keeping just right in front of us. I don't think we'll be able to catch her.
Yeah.
We need a turbocharger on this thing.
Yeah.
Get the paddle out. We did have early on, you could probably find YouTube videos where we had playable planes, and we still have that in the sandbox.
Yeah, the Sunderland, right?
Yeah, and you're able to at least land underwater even. And I think that's gonna do it for this stream. I mean, thank you everybody for sticking around. We still have 195 people.
Oh yeah, this did really well. This was great. Hopefully, some of you guys actually go and download the demo because it's free. Doesn't
it isn't? Get it. You'll get the Bieber, you'll get the Flak Gun, deck gun, the museum, and more importantly, I think you'll see all the updates that we put out and how quickly we put updates out. I think if it's okay with you, Wolfpack, maybe we move on to some of the Q&A. I know we have a lot of outstanding questions we weren't able to answer.
Yeah, I guess now we'll answer the questions JMO had.
Wolfpack, if you also just have fun with the boat, if you go sit on the captain's seat, you can drive her around as well.
All right.
I haven't seen you.
Oh my gosh, I keep falling off. I would certainly drown if I were on this thing in real life. Let me tell you.
These boats has a little detail in case people are interested why we picked this one. This is a ship, or what is it called? A ships, or a ship's sloop. On the Italian Littorio class battleships. And one of the contributors to our project had already made this model. So why not have it? If you sit on the captain's seat behind your Wolfpack, you can also control the boat just with WASD.
Oh, perfect.
It might be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
It's
yep.
So if you just press the normal WASD keys, give you control that way without having to click.
I am able to. Perfect.
She's got ignition. She's got reverser right now. She's pretty simple, but the basics are there. All right, let's see. Question-wise, I think we had a question that I recall about financing. How is this being financed?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, we're a team of just passionate hobbyists. We're passionate about the subject matter. Specifically, personally, I come from a keen interest in U-boat technology, and I have my professional background is I've been coding since I was about 8 years old. My professional career has centered around that, so I have the skills necessary to make it happen, and luckily I have spare time where I could contribute to this, so I do. I do not see it as my full-time job, and probably never will, because I made a choice not to be a game dev for my main aspiration in life, but it is a fun hobby and a rewarding hobby for me personally. And the funds that we do raise with the sales of the game go to things that I mentioned, such as acquiring research material. We have been fortunate enough to be able to recruit really good freelancers where they're not necessarily part of the core team, but they do help. We basically pay them a fair freelancing rate to help develop models. We do all of the research, all of the work, and we basically give them the specs of what needs to be modeled. They help out with modeling and texturing. And that's mainly how we've been using the funds up until this point. And of course, hardware isn't free. I mentioned that. Building out servers, being able to pay for electricity and bandwidth at a data center, because we do own physical hardware and stuff like that. That's where the funds are going. If we wanted to, make this a big deal, we'd probably, approach it a different way. But we want to have the freedoms to do this the way we think it should be done, and pursue it just from a, what would you say, kind of just a hobbyist perspective.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying to see in the stream how being such a natural, how do you say, sub-sim player, Wolfpack is now trying to overtake this tanker on the fourth side instead of in front of her. Got an AOB about 120 left now.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't even really thinking about it. I was like, oh.
Yeah, gotta go that way. Yeah. Private Paula, is this planned as an MMO where you have a subscription when this goes into a more release?
No.
It is planned as an MMO, indeed, but a subscription, no. We're not planning that model. I'll let Marius take the rest of the answer, though.
Yeah, so I mean, we polled our users and we asked them about subscription fees, and it was clear, folks are over that model of revenue. Nobody likes subscriptions. I think we all have enough in our lives. Everything's become a subscription, even, for some folks, grocery delivery. So
Yeah.
nobody likes that. So no, we don't plan on having it as subscription. However, we do plan on, if we, the vehicles that are built by other developers, in order to ensure that they have an incentive to participate and build out models, we will be offering extra vehicles outside of what we're building as a core team as DLCs that you could purchase. So you won't need to or be forced into, let's say, playing a destroyer. However, if you'd like to play on a destroyer and we have a dev that could take that on and build that for our world, you'll be able to purchase it. And yes, it's exactly like DCS. I think I touched upon that in the presentation when we kicked it off, where that's kind of our mindset here, where we can make it accommodating for players, so you get the freedom of choice, and we also make it an incentivization model for devs to participate in what we're building. And at the end of the day, the more compelling vehicles we have, the more compelling gameplay, the better we can make this happen, the better it's going to be for everybody, both players and other devs who want to participate in what we're building here.
Yeah, I just want to chime in too. I think all of us here have played a game, and like one day you just kind of wake up like, wait, why am I playing this game? Why is this such a time suck? Like, what is this? What is the purpose of this? My save's gonna get deleted. Nothing's gonna matter. But with Crush Depth, I mean, this is preserving history, and you're able to see things digitally that don't exist anymore. And we do the work to make sure that these things stay that way. And I think it's a much more worthy cause, just because it's so much more than just a simulator, that it's worth investing in.
And to to Jonathan's point, the other thing that we're working hard on trying to bring to reality, and there are complexities that we have to figure out. We would like to put out DLCs that are directly funding and preserving museums, museum ships, and other historical organizations. I don't want to name anything because I don't want to commit to anything, but imagine there's a museum that has a specific kind of vehicle. And we know that most museums are run by volunteers and they're strapped for cash. And being able to keep a lot of these aging physical ships is becoming harder and harder. If we could offer DLCs that, again, they're basically completely optional to the end user, except by purchasing the DLC, maybe you get access to behind the scenes or some sort of compelling content. And your purchase is fully directed as a donation to that institution that helped us, provide that content for the DLC. We can achieve what we consider to be, a different level of gaming, where our end users are more cognizant of the impact they could have to real life beyond playing and viewing history in a virtual form, where you now kind of are participating in being a responsible and informed gamer. You're participating in history, but also contributing to making sure that physically it could stay around for as long as possible. And again, just like everything else, it's going to be optional. You're not forced to do that, but if you are able to and like to donate, yet you can't fly to that museum, you could purchase a DLC, get some really nifty content, and know that you're helping donate to a good cause.
It'll be 110 left now, Wolfpack. You're getting there.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty confident that maybe we'll actually overtake it.
You're getting there, yeah.
To be honest.
One thing we haven't talked about at all, and something I would like to touch upon, is that there is the free demo out right now. You can go to our Steam page. I'll link it again in a bit, and that's what we showed this stream, right? But I can understand, for a lot of guys, it might still be quite a step to say, okay, I'm going to spend my $41 because we're on sale now, we're $60 now to support the project in this early stage. For those, we also have an alternative, which also gives you direct access to the project, so the main project with this MMO scene and everything, and a lot of other things as well, and that's our Patreon page. If you subscribe as a Patreon, starting at $5 a month, you also get a download link, and as long as you are a Patreon, you will also have access to the main game. So there is an alternative route you can take to getting the game than just purchasing it through Steam. I'll link both the Steam page and the Patreon page right now, so have a look at that as well, if that is something you feel more comfortable with as a way to support our project.
And I just want to be clear, if you're not in the position to don't want to, or you want to be safe and see how this turns out in a year or two, just thank you for tuning in and at least being aware that this exists. We appreciate that as well.
Some more questions by Bullybell. How do the persistent world work? Do the conflicts just spawn randomly, or are there trade routes, for example? Other questions are any plans to make a dynamic campaign that restarts every month or something like that? Honestly, maybe Marius can say a bit more about that, but I'll leave that to Marius then for now.
Yeah, so we envision to be able to curate the experiences for the players. We envision, short sorties, if you will, where you have perhaps historical engagements where you could jump into to a short session with your friends or with strangers, or have a more persistent world, if you will. And the exact semantics we haven't worked out. As you could see, by this demonstration, we're still very busy building some of the core technologies and frameworks needed to make this become a reality. So how those will eventually materialize, we can't say yet. But being involved in this and giving us feedback on Discord is the best way to help influence that decision. We have a lot of players that do play it and give us feedback, and that's how we're making a lot of these decisions, because we do want to balance fun gameplay versus options versus quite a few things that we have to get right. And the best way to ensure that happens is through feedback by the actual people spending time in the game and experiencing it for themselves.
Got another
How-
one from TA152H1. How in depth would you guys want the survival mechanics to be? Can you die by starving, sickness, or bleeding out?
Yeah,
Uh,
and go ahead, Gemma.
No, you go ahead, because you know how I feel about those sort of things.
So there's no reason, we've joked about and we talked about appendectomies, and there's no reason why we can't go to that level of detail. Uh, there's concerns about the disconnect between having a virtual character and a real character and the emotions and how you're able to deliver that message to the player experiencing the simulation on the other side. So I imagine, like a lot of the mechanisms or mechanics in this game, there's going to be optional implementations on how you want to experience it. Like I mentioned, if you want to decode Morse with the Enigma, you can. If you want to automate and simplify, I see no reason why we can't implement that as well. So I think it's going to be the same thing in regards to how the player experiences basically the world they're in. Like I mentioned, if you sniff the flatulence of your counterpart in the same ambient air compartment, does that do anything? Does your character, become grossed out, or do they not? Who knows? Technically speaking, of course, we can implement it gameplay wise. To what level of simulation do we want to go to? We've yet to find out, because again, we're not there yet. We haven't built it to the point where we can answer those questions honestly, but we're open to exploring the possibility space. I think that's what I want to communicate. We're open to trying different things and see what works best.
Yeah, that's something you'll see very much in the way we've been developing this so far already, is that we build a very basic implementation of something, just to communicate the idea, as you see here with the motorboat that Wolfpack is now driving, and then we check for ourselves and we check with our community. Does it feel good? Does it have the right idea? And the idea there being is that it's better that if something doesn't work, we find out quickly as well, so we can do something else, rather than building out something for months and months on end, then implementing only to find out it's not fun anyway. So when it comes to the idea of what is it?
Fail fast in software development in agile methodology is called fail fast.
Yeah. So survivability of the player character or your avatar is something that will very likely go that route as well. We'll probably implement a very basic one way there, see if it communicates the message well, see if it's fun, and we'll expand from there.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking, it's your channel, Wolfpack. You pick some of the questions. I'm sort of biased maybe in picking them as well, so I'd rather leave it to you.
I guess you've kind of already. I just saw it. I've lost it now, but it was by Mark82 Snake Eye, and his question was, oh, here we go. How will this simulation work for a lone wolf type gamer? Will someone who can't or doesn't want to be part of someone who can't or doesn't want to be part of a crew? Will the player be limited with his experience?
That is a tough one, and I'll be honest about why that is tough. So part of it is, yes, technically, we can dedicate a virtual boat to a lone wolf and block it from other players. Technically, we can do that. There's no reason why we can't. From a gameplay perspective, these complex vehicles, whether it was a U-boat or a destroyer, took cooperation. It took people that were competent at what they were doing to work together to achieve a goal. And I think it's important for us to ensure that that is communicated and actually can be executed inside of the game, where you have to work with others to achieve the goal. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, if it takes you 3 weeks to finally get that hit on a torpedo hit on a merchant, that doesn't mean that you're doing everything yourself. It means you've gone through the process, you understand how to do it, and then you're participating with others to achieve that. Again, I know it doesn't work for lone wolves. I know it could be very difficult to hear that, but we have to draw the line somewhere in terms of scope creep. This can't be both a single player and an MMO at the same time. It just doesn't work very well. So I'd rather, kind of focus on one modality, implement it, and learn from it. If we find out that, everybody hates working with everybody else, that was absolutely the wrong way to go. MMO will never work for whatever reason. we'll find out. If it works, though, that does mean that there's going to be a certain style of player that won't be interested in crush depth, unfortunately, because it will require cooperation with others. But again, I find a lot of opportunity there. You have content that one can say is very niche. It's a very niche genre, very niche interest, and finding others that share your passions can actually create bonds and friendships that go beyond the game. Like this whole team that we're working with, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was alone developing this. Gemma reached out, said, "Hey, I'd like to help." I said, "Sure. We're both interested in it. Why not?" And here we are. So I think a lot of good can come out um, as part of having an MMO as well. So I don't see us really focusing on single player for a while.
Okay. And then I think another good one is what are ports going to be like? The port experience between patrols. And then also, how many players will the server support? I think we dabbled in that earlier, but just
Yeah, I'll touch upon it. So ports, the way we've iterated the gameplay ideas are, you should be able to ship in raw materials to get them to the the shipyard to be able to build the U-boats. You should be able to refuel. We've talked about having hose dynamics where you can drag a hose to the inlet of the U-boat, open up the port, start feeding in bunker oil to it, replacing the diesel oil filters. Because these are going to be persistent vehicles, they will age as players use them. And you'll be able to see wear marks, you'll be able to see, compression marks on the hull from diving too deep. You'll be able to see, diesel engines through time getting worn down and needing to have their piston rings replaced because they've been pushed too hard, the oil filter wasn't replaced, and so on and so forth. So the ports will be, I think, very central to the logistics of the overall effort in maintaining a U-boat fleet and being able to send them out to sea, which touches upon another gameplay element that we've been discussing, which is the BDU, right? The centralized kind of authority that coordinates all the traffic, sends the U-boats out to the convoys, is able to intercept the communication and strategize on where the U-boats are going, manage the communications, and so on. So I think there's huge gameplay opportunities everywhere in regards to this. Yes, we're going to have replacement parts on U-boats. Yes, you're going to be able to take a cylinder head out and swap a new cylinder, or replace the piston rings. I mean, the damage model is core to what we want to achieve. There's a reason why we're going through such depth in regards to our simulation subsystems, because if you blow a fuse, unless you're trained into finding which fuse is blown and replacing it, you're going to be stuck into water potentially with no lights on your boat, and an inability to run any electrical equipment and so on. So this can make for fun and engaging gameplay experience, but also a lot of, again, educational value as well. And in regards to the server, the way we've mapped out the server architecture, we have proxy servers that kind of help route the traffic to the different players around the world. Again, I mentioned network-based occlusion, distance occlusion, and so on. That takes into account geographical latency, takes into account physical distance in the virtual world of different players. And then we have the dedicated compute nodes, which basically allow us to carve different parts of the world into compute spaces. So when a boat is, let's say, within a 200-kilometer area, all of that boat's logic is run by that server. When it moves away, it gets handed off to another server and so on. So theoretically, it can be infinitely scalable, and we could create as many servers and load balance them as we would need to achieve the scale that the player base demands. So if crush depth never really takes off, a few servers will be more than enough. If this becomes, very interesting and a lot of players find it compelling and join the experience and they decide to purchase a copy, then of course we'll just have to build out the infrastructure, add more compute to it to accommodate more virtual vehicles that are going to naturally exist in the game. So hopefully that answers both of those.
yeah, I think that got quite a few questions actually. I think a lot of the other questions kind of have been addressed. I guess just the one that kind of goes into that is various roles. You know, I guess certain roles will be more sought after, but we discussed like the qualifications and stuff before. And
Yeah, that's also something we have to think about a little bit more, because we envision as well that our world will be a little bit more open and a little bit more fluid than you see in other games as well, where it's very much this person has that role which he will have to fulfill forever and ever. So what I would like to say there, this is part of an ongoing design question, and it's a very complex question as well. And I hope you forgive we don't have an exact answer there. Not to say we're not thinking about it, quite the opposite actually. But the thoughts there, they're complicated, they're lengthy, and they're very nuanced. Not something I can delve out in 10 minutes on a stream here. What we are planning to do going forward is that we've done the weekly update videos, and we want to move now more towards a situation where we're going to do more streaming like we did this evening, because it's also a lot of fun, and also make videos which are more about, say, certain specializations, how certain things work within the project. So instead of, okay, we did this last week, we're going to dive in depth into, okay, this is how the electrical simulation works, this is how this kind of weaponry works, etc., etc. And one of the things we're going to tackle there, of course, as well, are our thoughts about the obvious challenges that a game or a project like this poses. One of the big challenges there being, of course, the vast distances you have on the real scale Atlantic Ocean. I can see it in the chat a couple of times already. Maybe this was answered already, but what about time compression?
Yeah, that was the next one.
Travel times question, actually relevant. How will you address that? Well, there are many, many different ways to address it. You can use time compression, of course, which has, good sides and problematic sides to it as well. You could use a system of, say, teleporting between one position and the other. There are many, many possibilities there. And this is, and we have different solutions there. And we have different, say, ideations of gameplay that we could build out, we want to experiment with, and then see what works best. A smaller size world would be a possibility as well, but that also makes it problematic because we lose the real world scale proper simulation there. So what I would like to do is, if you forgive me, is hold that question for a moment and take the opportunity for another stream or maybe YouTube video in which Marius or myself or somebody else in the team who is working on this very much really go in depth about, say, the gameplay questions that this raises.
All right.
They're going to build a world, guys. Fries Den Haag says we already have. The entire world scale is already in. Full bathymetry is in. Full height map is in. So from an ocean perspective, height of water and those sort of things, the world is already in. We have already made that. You'll see here we're somewhere off the coast of England, I believe. You can see there Land's End. So yeah, you can see the world is already in. Different game modes would make it a possibility as well. Hop in, hop out. Another possibility would be allowing the player to switch between different vessels and say, okay, this vessel has action, so you play on that boat. Then you hop over to another one. So there are many different ways to tackle that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have to say about it for the moment. Yeah.
All right. So why don't we?
I see some good suggestions in the chat as well from Roger Delshi as well. Simple as using map simulating stuff once per hour, switch to real-time compression in between. But I'll take this as an open invitation. I hope I can make some time for it, and then I would very much, maybe we can do this in some sort of town hall meeting style or something, because these are things we've considered already, and we need to find one solution that ties in all the problems that are associated with it, so to speak, which is very complicated, but we'll see. And I hope we can set it up somewhere in the next couple of weeks, couple of months.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys are okay with it, let's maybe take 2 more questions and do one more giveaway, and then we could wrap it up, because actually again, I'm super appreciative of how many people have stuck around for over 2 hours now.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. If y'all have any more questions, final questions, throw them in there. And for the next giveaway, just type 2 if you want a
So,
key, I suppose. Unless you had a better idea.
No,
And-
it's fine.
spiraling 69 in regards to the batteries and the chemistry, yes, there were actually pipes to deal with the gases, and that is something we're researching and want to simulate in depth. So do you have to be a chemist? I don't know. I'm learning a lot along the way, so maybe we're all going to become amateur chemists as part of this.
All right. And it looks like we got a lot of 2s. How about sound design? How are you planning on working on sound design? Like getting you have people
Right.
who specialize on with that on the team, or just other means?
Yeah, so again, I want to be respectful to the team. I think everybody, when they want to, put themselves out there, they can. Otherwise, I just want to keep it at the fact that we have a lot of expertise on the team. We have professionals who, by trade, they're either engineers or developers or, sound engineers, if you will, and they participate in the project. They know what they're doing way more than I know how. So yes, they are experts in what they do. We do have access to different archive materials for sounds that we use to ensure that what we're creating is accurate. And some of you may know that we also have been in contact with Mr. Frederick Rod, 105-year-old ex-U-96 submariner, chief engineer, and we've asked some questions, of very hard to quantify or find answers to, such as, what did a sonar ping sound like? And the answers he provided to us were quite illuminating, something that I think we've seen be inaccurately portrayed in a lot of movies and other sort of media, where it's actually quite different in real life, is what we ended up learning.
Yeah,
So we
the descriptions of what it sounds like from, I don't know, people who were there just does not match the high pitched ping that
Yeah.
you hear everywhere. Like the one for my notification thing, for example. Like
Yeah, so
you
what-
hear all sorts of weird things like gravel, stuff like that. So it is
So
interesting.
we actually put together, about 20 different sounds, and we went back and forth with them and said, which one sounds most accurate to you? And that's kind of how we started honing in on some of the accurate sounds in regards to what it sounded like on board the U-boat. So I know it's a little bit unorthodox in regards to how we're building this out, but again, we're curious, right? We're hobbyists and we're curious about recreating what it was truly like there. I don't think we could take a Type 7 and do it. Not yet anyway. So that's the next best thing, and that's how we're iterating on the sound. No, we don't use that symbology at all. We have our terms of service actually are pretty clear on it, and I'll share a link. And it's actually why I brought up the start kind of the start menu and why we spent a little bit of time on it. We will not entertain any type of symbology that could be hurtful, demeaning to others, and so on.
And then there's a short one. Will Perventine be implemented for use in game?
Yeah,
we
most definitely.
You got it. Really?
So what is the first one we made actually? So yeah.
All right, I thought that was.
I mean,
funny.
I have to be honest. We're not really certain of how we're going to implement it. We talked at great length about this. We even considered, I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole there. But indeed, one of the earliest props we made for this project is the vial that would hold the Pervitin pills. Indeed, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can think of some pretty interesting and entertaining ways to implement it, but I'm sure you can too.
I'll take one more question. For those who have asked, most importantly, we will be able to play the Tipperary song. Right now, we have around 20 hours of music in the project already. I'm not entirely sure if the Tipperary song is there in actually,
I think it is.
but
I got it.
yeah, probably is. If it's part of public domain, it should be no problem at all. If you have any suggestions there, of music you would like to add, contact us and we'll see what's possible there legally.
Annoying Canadian, that was just answered. It will be censored.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the last question I want to answer, last comment, AMSR35 GTR. Overworked in a multiplayer U-boat game. Nice. The name of the entity that is building this game officially is called Overworked Studios. I don't know if there's some sort of connection there.
Okay, well, I guess did we do the giveaway for the last one or
Yep.
okay.
We're
Oh,
to
nice.
Snake.
There we go.
I'll go send him. I'll go send him the key right now. Congratulations.
All right, well, I suppose that will do it then. Probably
Thank you
hop out to the menu.
This.
No, yeah, this was great. This was a lot of fun and certainly enlightening for.
Oh, not
I'm
the
sure
Valkyrie. That's such a cliche AMS. We've got much lovelier classical music in already. We got Don Giovanni by Mozart. We have the Stanchion by Schubert. We have what else do we have? String quartet from Beethoven. Everything. So yeah. Grumpy Sergeant. We're just at the end.
Oh no, yeah, we're just at the end. You guys can actually go back and watch the video on Twitch. So, if there's stuff you wanted to catch, there's different segments. I'll try to splice it up and everything, maybe.
Good luck.
Yeah, it was turned out to be a lot longer than I thought, but it was great. It was certainly enlightening for me, and I'm sure a lot of folks in here as to what the project is aiming to be and all the cool stuff you have planned.
Thank you. And
Hey.
thank you for
Okay.
participated and is still around, still asking questions. We would love to do, a follow-up stream to answer some of them later on.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.
Please connect with us on Discord as well.
Yeah, hop in the Discord, check out the Steam page. And Jamo's throwing it in there now. Perfect.
Here's the link to the Steam page in case you want to support our project that well. Then I'll also dump the the Patreon, which you can also use to get access straight away. Yeah, most of the links are also just directly on our website, crossdev.com.
Yeah, if you go to the main website, we link out to social media, to itch.io, to Steam. If you could buy a key directly on our store, Steam, everything's there. That's kind of the hub of all the info we have.
All right. Well, with that, I think I will conclude the stream. Thanks for stopping in, everybody. All the follows, all the subs, all the awesome questions and feedback. Appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you all later on the next one.
All right. Thank you.
All right.